Welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast, where we discuss all things empowering, encouraging and inspiring. My name is Yvonne Ellis. I'm an empowerment speaker, author, coach, trainer and founder of Yumi Empowerment, a company that facilitates the empowerment of people. I help people to make positive life change, live in their purpose and develop into their best version of self. I share stories, interviews, spiritual encouragement and actionable tips to empower, encourage and inspire you to live the life you want. So if you want to live the empowered life, join me each week on my podcast so we can take the journey together. Hello Empowered Lifers, welcome to episode 47 of Living the Empowered Life podcast. I hope that you are all doing well. I'm doing great. I've just come through a really tiresome week. As I shared on Instagram, I had just finished doing 80 hours of study for an assignment and handed it in on Friday. So I was so pleased with that. But on the downside, I am really tired. But, life goes on. And I celebrated my birthday the week before that as well, which was absolutely lovely. I just really had a nice chilled birthday, took myself to some of my favourite places. I went to Harrods and visited their chocolate hall, bought myself some things there, bought myself a cake and a little gift. And, it was just a really nice birthday. And then I took myself down to one of the places that I really love to get inspiration from, and I did share that. And I did a little video on that called Putting Yourself Where Your Dream Is. And you know what? When I did that, I just felt so inspired again, so motivated again. Because as I explained in that video, life, bills, different things going on all the time can really make you feel like discouraged and make you feel that, you're never going to get to the things that you really want to do or have the things that you really want. So just going down there, spending that time down there really just refocused me in my 46th year to just continue on. Because, I've been on this journey for nearly 5 years, setting up my own business and everything else. But I know that the things that I'm doing, like my master's degree, all the different things that I'm putting out is going to pick up pace soon. So I just need to keep focused, keep inspiring myself in the times where I might feel a little discouraged. And I do encourage you to do that as well. If you have dreams or anything you're doing that, seems like it's really going to be hard to achieve or feels really far away, I just want to encourage you to do those same things. Put yourself where your dreams are, use that as fuel to help you in the times where you feel a little bit, discouraged. So if this is your first time listening in, I just want to welcome you. I should have actually said that at the beginning, actually. Sorry about that. But if it's your first time listening in, I hope this episode is something of value to you, the things that I share in this episode. Feel free to check out my other episodes. I have now 46 episodes uploaded on Living the Empowered Life podcast. You may find that something else is more suitable for you to listen to, but do check out my episodes. And to my continued listeners, thank you for listening in. I appreciate you guys as always. And I hope this episode as well, brings something of value to your life. But before we get into the episode, I just want to share a quick quote with you. So the quote I want to share with you is by Zig Ziglar. He was somebody who was a personal inspiration development coach to millions of people. He started in sales, but then I think he branched out into personal development. He passed away some time ago now, but the quote says, "If you learn from defeat, you haven't really lost." So that quote is by Zig Ziglar, and actually I think this quote might be quite fitting for this episode because I'm going to share with you a little bit of my journey of going through brokenness. It is probably going to be a little bit of a longer episode, so do bear with me. But I feel it's really important to talk about brokenness because living the empowered life can be very difficult to do if you are a broken person, like you're feeling broken inside and you're operating from a place of brokenness. Because what I found from being broken is that it takes away some of your power. And, to live the empowered life, you do need to draw from places that are going to energize you and give you strength. But when you're in brokenness, that can be difficult to do. So brokenness is not something that is new to me. It's something that I've experienced many different times in my life. And, again, over the pandemic, I realized that I had another season of brokenness. Now, I was still able to operate in that season of brokenness. I was still, doing things. I launched a courage course. I was, preparing to release my third book, Into the Unknown, and doing all the things that I needed to do. But, in the background of that, I realized when I sat down and just spent time with myself that I was feeling broken. And I want to talk to you today about 4 areas of brokenness that I identified and how that kind of looked like in those areas as well. So spiritually, I felt that I had no inner strength. I stopped dreaming. Now, some of you may be wondering what's that about, but one of the gifts that God has given me as a born-again Christian is the gift of dreams. So I have dreamt about things way in advance and they've come to pass. I have visions and things like that. And one of the things that God has consistently given me over my walk as a Christian is dreams. He'd speak to me through dreams. I'd write them down. I've got a dream book that I've kept for about nearly 20 years of all the dreams that God's given me. And I realized in that area, spiritually, that I was broken because I stopped having dreams. I stopped doing things like fasting. And also as well, I struggled to just get up and pray. Now, for me, one of the core things that has kept me during this time of living the empowered life and stepping into the unknown, stepping out in 2018 and leaving my job, is my prayer time. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, spending that time in the Lord's presence, was something that is powerful to me, that energizes me. And I stopped doing these things and these things stopped happening. Another area I realized I was broken in is mentally, in my mental state. So, that kind of manifested itself in being distracted, being unfocused, my mind, just being all over the place, flitting from one thought to the next. Sometimes having low moods and also anxiety as well. Emotionally, in that area, I had times where I was crying, I was more kind of influenced by my feelings rather than, being influenced by other things, being tossed to and fro, just really just all over the place. And physically, I did put on a little bit of weight. And that started to manifest itself, that brokenness, in feeling like achy, aches and pains and things like that. I didn't really realise the effect that it had on me because in the midst of everything, as I said, I was experiencing success in things. It wasn't like I was sitting down in brokenness and everything was just not going anywhere. I was still operating and doing things that were kind of counting towards my success. But I didn't really realise the effect that my brokenness was having on me because I was operating and continuing to function and doing all that stuff. So it wasn't really until probably mid-2021 that I started to realise, the brokenness in all these areas. And also I realised that I'd picked up some bad habits to cope with the fact that I was feeling broken in these areas. Also as well, going through relationship issues and feeling at times that I couldn't express myself. Inner struggles with self was another area that I really, really struggled with. It reared its ugly head again during this time. So as you can see, there was a mixture of so many different things that was going on for me. But what I did realise is during that time, when I sat down and had that time of reflection, is that I had to let go of so many things that I could do nothing about rather than battle and hold on to them. So things to do with my business, I had to let go of that. I had to say to myself, what's going to be is going to be. Obviously, I'm doing what I can to continue to build my business. But if it's not meant to be in this season and it's going to, close down or something, then there's nothing I can do about that, apart from pray. So that's what I did. I prayed about it. And in other areas of my life, I had to learn to let go things as well, because one of the things I realized, that was kind of fueling the brokenness is holding on to things. So I had to learn to let go of the things that were keeping me in brokenness. I spent time reflecting on things. I spent time checking on myself, and that obviously showed me the areas that I was broken in. And, I saw things, weren't right. So I had to, start to deal with that brokenness. And it was kind of a shock to sit down and see kind of how feeling broken had manifested itself in so many different areas of my life. But in the same way, it was a blessing, because then it started to help me to realize, that there was a problem, but I just needed to find a way to deal with the problem. And as I just mentioned, one of those ways was letting go of things that were outside of my control and recognizing, things for what they were. So spiritually, what I started to do was to go back to basics, getting up at 5:30 a.m. to start to pray, and throughout the day, just praying and worshiping God. Also, just talking to God and being honest and open about everything, because he knows all things. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He knows the beginning from the end from the beginning. So me taking my problems to him wasn't a surprise to him. He already knew, but he was waiting for me to come to him to ask for help. And mentally, to begin to deal with the mental brokenness, I started to remove distractions, removing myself from, Google searches, from social media, from YouTube, limiting those distractions, taking myself out for quiet time. That was really, really good for my mental health, because I found actually during the pandemic, I spent too much time, as I said on one of my beginning podcasts, watching the news or being distracted by things on the screen. So having that quiet time, taking myself away from things, sitting in just silence or walking in silence, as well, that was really helpful. Really did help my mental health. It just gave my mind time to just be. And that was something that was really, really good for me. So to deal with physical brokenness, I started to do my 10,000 steps a day. It was something I started from just before the pandemic, actually. But as I said, I started to comfort eat a bit too much. So what I started to do was just to increase the amount of days I did my 10,000 steps a day walk. Sometimes I'd do even more than that, sometimes double, but these are things that were just helping me to deal with, my physical brokenness, being active every day, making sure I wasn't sitting down for too long, being active, doing different things. So, that did really help me. And emotionally, what I started to do to deal with emotional brokenness is to avoid things and situations that were triggering me. Sometimes I've learned it is better to be quiet than to try to be right. Now, that is something I think that sometimes women do struggle with, talking too much. And I realized that actually I was doing a bit of that. In order for me to want to express myself and get things out, because as women, that's what we do. We want to express our feelings, but sometimes it is not productive. It doesn't help the situation. So, what I started to do in situations was to, instead of talk about certain things, I started to just, not talk about it and remove myself. One of the ways I dealt with that was just to talk to God about it. But I just started to avoid those situations that would cause me to want to talk about things, knowing that there would be no resolution, and just remove myself from it. Also as well, another big thing that I struggled with during this time was also not allowing my feelings from situations to dictate how I react, especially negatively. Allowing feelings to kind of dictate your decisions, dictate what you say, dictate the things that you're going to do. It's not a good thing, it's not. I think as a woman, I'm learning not to allow feelings to dictate how I act or the things that I do. So I'm still on that road. I'm still on that kind of learning journey. But, that is something that is not something that helps living the empowered life, being kind of dictated by your feelings. Because as I know, feelings will have you doing all kinds of things, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're the right things. So maybe you've been listening to what I've been saying, and maybe, you feel, one or two things may kind of resonate with you. I want to share with you how to identify brokenness. Now, how I was able to do that, as I mentioned, was I identified it by 4 areas. So mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So one of the things I would say to you to do is to write down these 4 headers in your journal, in your notebook, whatever you have where you write down stuff. put these 4 headers, and then underneath those headers, check how you're doing. That's what I did. Check how you are doing. So think to yourself, how am I doing spiritually? And write that down. How am I doing mentally? So you may write down, I'm struggling with anxiety or something. Do a check-in with yourself in those 4 areas. Once you've done that, and depending on what you've wrote down, whether you realise that you're feeling broken in these areas, because brokenness can come in many different ways. It can come in lack of strength, it can come in negative outlooks, it can come in so many different things. But once you've wrote down these 4 headers and you realise, okay, maybe I am feeling broken in some areas, here are some things to help you to start to deal with your brokenness. Under those same sections that you've wrote down, start to think about maybe one small thing you can do to start to work on your brokenness and change it. So, you may actually identify, you may need support. There's been times during my brokenness, not the last period, but obviously other times in my life where I've experienced feeling broken inside, that I went to go and get help, through therapy, through, just seeking help from other people to help me to understand why I'm feeling broken. Because you might find actually there might be something deeper that you need to deal with or heal from. But, you might need that help. You might need that extra support. But if it's something you feel that, you can kind of manage, then do look at small steps of things that you can do to start to deal with it. For instance, when I said to you about how I was eating my feelings, going through emotional brokenness, one of the things that really did help me with that was, as I said, not getting in situations that would trigger me, but also as well walking. So things like that might help you think about that and write that down. Spiritually, in that area, you might want to now start to seek God for yourself. God is an ever-present help in times of trouble. I have found that for myself. If it wasn't for the Lord God, I don't know what I would do. But if you're feeling spiritually broken, unsure of yourself, I would encourage you to seek God, ask him into your heart and life. He will meet you at your point of need. But the thing is, you have to realise that you need God. That's what I've learned. That's what I know. So if you're feeling spiritually broken, go and talk to him like how you would talk to a friend. Because sometimes we do that, don't we? Well, I used to do that when I was not so deep in my walk. Go and talk to a friend, but the friend doesn't have answers. Obviously, a friend can listen to you, but they don't have the answers. They don't have the things that you need to spiritually get you back or get you to a place you've never been before. Only God can give you that. Emotionally, something that you can do is, become more aware of your emotions, become more aware of anything that triggers you. A really good therapy that I really did find really helpful to me many, many years ago, probably back in 2013, was CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, because I used to struggle to pinpoint where certain feelings would come from or where certain behaviour would come from or the things that would cause those things to make me behave a certain way. And CBT was so helpful. Maybe that is something that you can look at. You can get books on Amazon for CBT. Even the dummy series, Expert for Dummies, they have, the yellow books that have, different topics and things to help people who don't know anything about the subject, help them to get, abreast of it. They have a book for CBT. That book might be worth checking out. If you want to start to, kind of pinpoint where your emotions lead you, CBT, as I said, in books or in therapy, is really, really good. And mentally, as I said, professional help. Because, maybe your brokenness is coming from depression. I didn't have depression this time round, a year ago when I was going through brokenness, but I've had depression in the past, and I've had battles with depression, many years ago. Before that, for 25 years. I think I really started turning the corner on depression probably at 34 years old, from the age of 13. So that is a huge amount of time, a huge, part of my life. Maybe you realise actually I am depressed. Now with the whole pandemic and everything being over, you can actually get therapy online. And there are resources out there where you can access maybe 6 sessions of therapy and speak to somebody via Zoom or online. So do check out those things because, your brokenness might be stemming from depression as well. So it's been a journey to overcome brokenness again. But, in all things, one of the great benefits for me about my brokenness that I've realized over the years, even after I wrote my first book, Daughter Arise, and it was published in 2010, is that my brokenness, my vulnerability in sharing that, blesses other people. Now, I don't find it a blessing to go through brokenness, but what I've learned that when I share things that I found difficult, things that have been challenges in my life, other people are able to get things out of it. So for that reason, I am thankful for that. And, also if I'm being honest, brokenness has helped me to become a stronger person because, we're all human at the end of the day. And even though, we may have success and we may do great things and, achieve amazing stuff, we are still prone to times where we can feel broken. And there is nothing wrong with that because in our human nature, we are fallible. We are prone to fall. We are prone to have times where we, are just broken and feeling hurt and feeling down, and that is totally okay. So don't look on brokenness as embarrassing, as shameful. In your brokenness somewhere is something that can help somebody else, like I found in my experiences of brokenness. So the Bible scripture I want to share with you this week comes from Psalm 147 and it's verse 3. It says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." That is what the Lord Jesus does. He binds up our brokenness. By his stripes we are healed. And that is what I found in my experience. Even though I have gone through many seasons of brokenness, God heals my broken heart in those times. And he can do the same for you too. If you are feeling broken by life, broken by circumstances, broken by the challenges of this life, seek the Lord God. He will bind up your wounds. He will help you in those times. He will give you the strength to carry on. He will make you better than, you felt you even was before. I can testify to that. And as I finish, I just want to share with you this quote. "My brokenness is a better bridge for people than my pretend wholeness ever was." I think that is something that I just summed up with what I said about my experiences. The benefit of brokenness, is that it is a bridge for people. So that is it for this episode. I hope that you have found it valuable to you in some way, shape or form. Please don't forget to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or Stitcher. Share with anybody that you feel needs a dose of living the empowered life. And if you want to share anything with me when I upload this episode on Instagram, my Instagram handle is YEME_empowerment. Over there, I share things to empower and inspire you. If you're on Instagram, follow me over there. And also on my other social media by the same name, Yemi Empowerment. And that's on Facebook and Twitter. Share with me anything that you feel is relevant about brokenness. I would love to hear from you. Because of the subject matter, you might find, okay, this is too public a platform to do that. DM me, let me know. Or, inbox me, email me. All my links will be below in the show notes. But that is it for this episode, guys. Hope that you have found it encouraging. Continue to live the empowered life. And I will see you on the next episode. Take care.